Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. Today, I wanted to share a story with you guys about a time that I needed to take my son to the hospital. One time, when I lived in Texas, I feel like I shouldn't even say when I lived in Texas anymore because all of these stories came from Texas. Eventually, I'll start adding stories from the time that I lived in the Carolinas, but I feel like the most interesting stories is when I lived in Texas. Anyways, my son's appendix ruptured while I was at work. So a friend called me and she let me know that my son was crying, he was on the floor, he's in pain. It was like unusual for him. So I left work. I rushed to go pick him up. I take him to the hospital. They take him immediately. Um, we go and the doctor is talking to us and he's hardly able to talk because he was like in so much pain. So I was telling her his symptoms and she's like, do you guys, she was like, she asked me, she said, do you mind if I interview him by himself? And my initial thoughts were like, no, like an interview. So I said, okay. So she takes him in a separate room and I was still in the room waiting for her to bring him back. So they were gone for a really long time, maybe 35 minutes. They were gone for a really long time. So they come back. He's in a wheelchair, by the way, um, because he couldn't stand. That's how much pain he was in. He was in a wheelchair. So she wheels him back in the room and she says, I don't believe your son. So I said, you don't believe him about what? So she's like, she's like, I asked him a few questions. I asked him if his dad was in the home and did he have a father? And he said no. She said, so I think he's pretending. And what I'm going to suggest is that he sees a therapist. So, like, everything's going through her mind at this time. Like, see a therapist. You clearly see that my son has all this throw up down the front of his shirt. He's crying. He's in pain. I brought him to the hospital so we could find out what's going on. So she's going back and forth with me like, I think your son is pretending. She's like, we see this with a lot of teenagers. It was a children's hospital, by the way. She's like, we see this with a lot of teenagers, and I don't think anything is wrong with him. So she's trying to convince me to take him back home. But I knew something was wrong with him. This was out of his character. He doesn't, for one, the throwing up. But she didn't care. She's like, you guys just need to go home. So she sent in a lady with like a bunch of paperwork to see a psychiatrist. She brought in paperwork for psychiatrists and therapists and people to talk to him like, I don't know. It was like the strangest thing. But we were there for so long with her sending in different people saying like, oh, for different reasons other than the reason that we were there. So the next doctor came in because we were there for so long. The next doctor came in and that doctor that I was originally talking to, her shift was over, so she left. So the next doctor comes in and we were still there, but they sent us to some waiting room and gave us like a few folders with like different clinics for children who had mental illnesses. So I'm like, he doesn't need this. He needs to be seen. Something's wrong. So the second doctor, when she came in for her shift, she asked me what was my son's symptoms. So I told her what his symptoms were, and she immediately ordered an ultrasound. They give him the ultrasound. They find out that his appendix ruptured. They have surgery on him immediately. He was in the hospital probably, I think 5 days. It was like a week, maybe 5 days. And yeah, the rest is history. I just can't believe that this doctor refused to help. And she was saying that she interviewed him and asked him where was his dad. And at the time, we didn't know where his dad was. Like, that didn't even come to, his dad had been gone so long at that time. He never even came up as even a person to try and contact again because he hadn't been responding to any calls or texts like for a long time. So by the time this happened, I never thought to even call him. He wasn't in the home. And yeah, as a matter of fact, I had my apartment by this time. He had kicked us out of the house. So, and I had my, yeah, I had my own apartment at this time, but like that was an experience that I'm like, you know what, I've heard about these things happening, but you never imagine something like that happening to you where a doctor's just gonna, right from the beginning, not do any tests, not do anything. And you guys, it's not like we didn't have excellent insurance. We had excellent insurance. It's just she saw us and she was like, I don't want to help them. And she didn't. The next doctor came in, and Allah is so kind. Like, she came in, she talked to me. I told her his symptoms, and she ordered an ultrasound. They see that his appendix ruptured, which everybody knows that's a serious thing that needs to be paid. You could die from that, you know? So, yeah, he had the surgery. The surgery was a success. Everything's fine, but I just couldn't believe that the doctor refused to help, and she made him like he was like making things up because his dad left the home. Like, that was that was crazy. But yeah, that happened a long time ago. And you guys, if you're not going to subscribe, because I know a lot of people don't subscribe if they don't already see a lot of subscribers, but I will really appreciate it if you give this video a thumbs up so that this video could be pushed through YouTube's algorithm and more people can see these videos and share theirs and enjoy this story time. And you know, so yeah, I would appreciate it if you guys give a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.